Slaying.
Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom. How y'all doing today? We have with us today Minister Tayu. Minister Tayu, say hello to the family.
Salama, family. Salama. How y'all doing?
So, family, there's a lot of things going on in the world. And, some of you all may be up on it. Some of you are too busy to, take note. And, it could just be another one of those things that look like it's prophetic and it's not, right? So, we don't know. We're not setting no dates. We're not setting no times. We just having a discussion. You know how I like to do? I like to share what I see with you all. If it comes to pass, great. If it doesn't happen, we wait. If it comes to pass, great. If it doesn't, we wait. So there's a lot of things going on. And those of you who follow this ministry for any length of time already knew these things were on the horizon, right? Because we have the awakening of the Israelites happening, even though there's a group of people who ignore that. And then we have a lot of the signs and wonders, we have the pestilences and all these other things happening. So what's happening today, family, is I'm gonna have to put it like this. It looks like it to me. Okay. Does that mean anything will happen tomorrow? Not necessarily. Does that mean anything will happen this year? Not necessarily. I'm just saying it looks like it. I look at signs. Yeshua told us you will be able to tell by the signs how near things are. When you see these signs begin, what? To come to pass, know that what? The end is near. I don't believe it's the end of the world. I don't even believe this is Armageddon. I do believe, though, it is prophetic. So we're going to go back right quick to Jeremiah 50. And I'm not going to read all of it, but we need to start off there because we're going to have a discussion around that. And we also are going to discuss whether or not what we're seeing today is in fulfillment of a lot of these things. Now, like I told you, I see things differently from everybody. So, eat the meat, spit out the bones. All right. So, Jeremiah 50, verse 1. This is the word of Yah spoken through Jeremiah the prophet concerning Babylon and the land of the Babylonians. Announce and proclaim among the nations, lift up a banner and proclaim it, keep nothing back, but say, Babylon will be captured. Bel will be put to shame, Marduk filled with terror. Her images will be put to shame and her idols filled with terror. A nation from the north will attack her and lay waste her land. No one will live in it. Both people and animals will flee away. In those days and at that time, declares Yah, the people of Israel and the people of Judah together will go in tears to seek the Lord their God. So what happens here, right? We all know the story of people who rebelled against their God, people who went into captivity worldwide as slaves, a 400-year captivity. Some of y'all don't believe in the 400-year prophecy, but all these signs around you and you still ignore it. But a nation from the north is going to attack who? A nation from the north is going to attack Babylon. Now, we have shown you in other teachings that we believe that Babylon is the United States of America. And we go through and show you why we believe Babylon is the United States of America. But take note that Babylon is going to be attacked by a nation from the north. Russia is north of here. Not only is Russia north of here, China is as well. But who's in the news today? It is Russia, right? Who has an issue with the United States? Who has an issue with NATO? Who has an issue with the global beast system? So the Bible says that when this stuff happens, the people of Israel, that's you and me and your children, right? Descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the people of Israel and the people of Judah, what? Together will go in tears to seek the Lord their God, in tears. So what's coming isn't going to be easy. We're going to be crying out. Minister, tell you anything before I continue?
Yeah, I just wanted to back that up with Zephaniah 3:15. Zion, your punishment is over. The Lord has forced your enemies to turn and retreat. Your Lord is King of Israel and stands at your side. You don't have to worry about any more troubles. Jerusalem, the time is coming when it will be said to you, don't be discouraged or grow weak from fear. The Lord your God wins victory after victory and is always with you. He celebrates and sings because of you, and he will refresh your life with his love. The Lord has promised your sorrow has ended, and you can celebrate. I will punish those who mistreat you. I will bring together the lame and the outcast. Then they will be praised instead of despised in every country on earth. I will lead you home, and with your own eyes you will see me bless you with all you once owned. Then you will be famous everywhere on this earth. I, the Lord, have spoken.
So, some people are going to say, especially those who adhere to a Eurocentric view of eschatology, will say these things don't mean anything, or they're going to say this is the battle of Armageddon, Gog Magog war, which is not. So understand, we do, thank you, Brother Keith, forgive. We do have Gog and Magog involved, but this isn't the Gog and Magog war. All right, so let's look at this particular video, and we're going to have a discussion about these things and what does it pretend.
Time is money, so don't spend it on managing your employee schedules. With Connect Team, you can easily plan.
Я хочу еще раз все-таки подчеркнуть это. Я говорил, но мне очень бы хотелось, чтобы вы меня услышали все-таки в конце концов. И донесли это до своих читателей, зрителей и пользователей в интернете. Но вы понимаете или нет, что если Украина будет в НАТО и военным путем будет возвращать себе Крым, европейские страны автоматически будут втянуты в военный конфликт с Россией. Конечно, потенциал объединенной организации НАТО и России несопоставим. Мы понимаем. Но мы также и понимаем, что Россия одна из ведущих ядерных держав. А по некоторым компонентам, по современности даже многих опережает. Победителей не будет. И вы окажетесь втянутыми в этот конфликт помимо своей воли. Вы даже не успеете глазом моргнуть, когда будете исполнять пункт 5 Римского договора. Господин президент, конечно, не хочет этого развития. И я не хочу. И я не хочу. Поэтому здесь и находится, и мучает меня уже 6 часов подряд.
So, Putin says, you won't have time enough to blink your eyes if you implement Article 5, which is the NATO Defense Pact. That means nuclear weapons, nuclear war. He talks about this in some of his shows. Thank you, Brother Kelvin, for the gift. He talks about this in some of his other things. Thank you, Sister Yah, for the gift. Understand that what we're seeing appears to be fulfillment or possible potential fulfillment of Jeremiah 50, Revelation 17, etc. And I'm gonna show you something, that I see that makes it, like the strongest contender for those prophetic fulfillments. But before we get there, I'm gonna show you another video, and we're gonna look at some other scriptures, because if I'm correct, right, then we are at the precipice of this war that we see in Jeremiah 50:51 and that we see in Revelation chapter 17. We are at the precipice, if I'm correct. If not, it's just another one of these things, all things remain the same. Thank you, Terry, for the gift. All things remain the same since the fathers fell asleep, right? And none of these other prophetic fulfillments we've seen over the years mean anything. The awakening of Israel don't mean anything. The pestilence don't mean anything. The earthquakes, the volcanoes, the hurricanes, the droughts, the reduction in the food supply, it don't mean nothing, right? But we'll see. We'll see, Mr. Tate.
Yeah, I just want to remind you guys what's happening with Russia and NATO is almost identical to the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? In the 60s, Russia wanted to bring missiles to Cuba. America said, you even try that, and there's a guaranteed war. It's on, right? So the flip is happening now where, NATO wants to get control of Ukraine and ultimately do the same thing, place missiles right on the border of Russia. And Russia's like, if you do this, it's on. So it's the same thing. And we expected Russia to understand when we told them you can't do that. But when we're doing it, we expect Russia to not respond the same way. So I think, Putin is a man's man type guy. I don't think he's just going to blink or back down. So, yeah, Minister Yakoba.
Quick question, man, to tell you. So, President Putin of Russia, is he the type of guy you would want to play cards with and think he bluffing? To me, he's not the kind of guy that bluffs. That's just me. What's your thought?
Oh, this is not the kind of guy that plays games. He's serious. I know people call him a gangster. I don't see him as that. I don't know him to say either if he is or isn't. But what I know is, he carries himself as a man of his word. So, if he tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do it. He's not waiting for you, to blink. He's not going to blink and, see who's going to blink, you or me. It's not like that. If he says he's going to do it, he probably is going to do it. That's the kind of personality he has. Whereas, most of our leaders, they sort of play the political game and, say, hey, look at our army. You might not want to do this. And we're going to apply sanctions. That's basically what we end up doing. But, his situation is if he allows them to put those missiles on his border, then he has a problem in the future. So, I think people should understand what's going on here. It just doesn't really make sense.
Exactly. And thank you, man, y'all, for the gift. All right. So I'm going to share another video, fam.
The White House is warning that a Russian attack on Ukraine could begin any day. After a huge buildup of Russian troops near the Ukrainian border, American officials say Moscow now has the capability to conduct a major military operation, possibly beginning with an air assault. Moscow has practically encircled its smaller neighbor with close to 130,000 troops, but maintains no invasion is being planned. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts intensified today to avoid war, with President Biden hosting a call of world leaders, including Boris Johnson, who said he feared for the security of Europe if there's a conflict. All British nationals are now being advised to leave Ukraine. Our North America editor Sarah Smith has the very latest.
The Russians are not trying to camouflage these military exercises their troops are conducting in Belarus, near the Ukrainian border. These pictures were provided by the Russian Defense Ministry. Has Vladimir Putin decided to order these troops into Ukraine? The US say they simply don't know, but they believe he is in a position to do so. So they are escalating warnings military action could be imminent possibly within days.
Now, we can't pinpoint the day at this point, and we can't pinpoint the hour. But what we can say is that there is a credible prospect that a Russian military action would take place even before the end of the Olympics.
Boris Johnson and other European leaders joined a call convened by President Biden this evening, along with NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg. Johnson urging allies to have ready punishing economic sanctions against Russia. With fears that aerial bombing and missile attacks against Kiev could precede any ground invasion, Brits in Ukraine are being urged to leave.
Leave now.
America's warning its citizens US forces will not go into Ukraine to rescue them.
That's a world war. When Americans and Russians start shooting at one another, we're in a very different world than we've ever been in.
Not even on behalf of simply evacuating Americans.
No, how do you do that? How do you even find them?
Things could go crazy very quickly. That's how President Biden put it when he repeated his warning to all US citizens to leave Ukraine.
All right, so thank you, Gee Fam, for the gift. Thank you, brother Derek, for the gift. So understand this, that America is ratcheting up the rhetoric, and it doesn't mean that nothing is going to happen or that Russia will invade or not. But both sides have been basically at the point of playing chicken, right? And for you younger kids, you know, that's when you drive two cars at each other and nobody turns off. So they've both been playing chicken. And I think that, you know, what we're seeing right now is it has a high probability of fulfillment of the scriptures. Now, granted, you know, I want out of here like everybody else. I'm ready for the second Exodus. And so, you know, maybe my view is skewed by that. But understand that there's a lot of prophetic things that are being fulfilled and everybody's not really looking at it, right? Very few people are talking about it. And when the ones who are talking about it is talking about it from a Eurocentric viewpoint, so they don't really see the whole picture. They see pieces of the picture. And, you know, when you think everything is in the let's say the perspective of Eurocentric Christianity, it confuses you. Everything is confusing. Thank you, Tetra Mom, for the gift. So we're gonna look at some scriptures as we go on to see why there's a high probability that, you know, this is the fulfillment of Jeremiah 51 and, you know, the whole destruction of Babylon. Anything, Minister Tay, before I continue?
Yeah. I just want to remind you guys, I know a lot of you all followed our prophecy teachings. I mean, we started from 2015, and we've been consistent on what's happening today, you know, as far as the timeline. So, you know, anyone that believes in prophecy, you know, should be able to see that these things are coming to pass. But I just wanted to read to you guys Ezekiel 11:14-23. Then the word of the Lord came to me saying, Son of man, your brothers, your relatives, your fellow exiles, right? That's us, and the whole house of Israel, all of them, are those to whom the present inhabitants of Jerusalem have said, Go far away from the Lord. This land has been given to us as a possession. Therefore say, Thus says the Lord God, though I had removed Israel far among the nations, and though I had scattered them among the nations, yet I have been a sanctuary for them a little while in the nations to which they had gone. Therefore say, Thus says the Lord God, I will gather you from the peoples and assemble you out of the nations where you have been scattered, and I will give back to you the land of Israel. This is where we think things are leading to, right? And if you understand, if you see these verses, they really only apply to one group of people who are still in the land of their captivity or in the other nations where they were sent to be punished, right? There's only one group of people that fit that. And so if you believe prophecy, this is applying to us. So where we think things are going is what we call the second Exodus. Minister Yacoba, back to you.
So question from Hawkeyes, is this Joel 3 as well? Well, a lot of the scriptures, have partial fulfillments in it, and I think it is part of Joel 3, right? And I think Joel 3 is also inclusive of the vengeance of the Lord, right? And the vengeance of the Lord is a day of wrath. Now, how long that day lasts is the question, right? So, the Bible talks about the valley of Jehoshaphat in Joel 3. And if you look at it in context, most people think in terms of the land of Israel and the land of Jehoshaphat and the valley, right? But the symbolic meaning of the valley of Jehoshaphat could mean that the two enemies, Israel's enemies, are going to fight each other just like they did in the valley of Jehoshaphat when Jehoshaphat was going against, to go fight Esau, right? And some of the other enemies. The enemies turned on each other and fought each other in the valley, right? So it's possible that part of that could be fulfilled, because if this is the destruction of Babylon, it is a time of vengeance. It is the time for the Most High to punish our enemies, right? And so that starts with Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, who we believe to be the United States of America. You don't have to agree with it, but we have videos on that. All right, so I'm gonna continue. All right, so Daniel chapter 7. Now, here's the thing. I was just recently looking at this because, how many of us have been looking at Daniel for like years and years and years and never really could understand it? Thank you, Marilyn Newmar, for the gift. How many of us been looking at these prophecies and couldn't understand? But now I think, we are at that time where knowledge has increased. And as we mentioned in other end time prophecy teachings, if you don't have the key, you're not going to understand. And what's the key? The key is knowing who Israel is. The key is knowing what this whole thing is about. The key is knowing why Israel went into captivity worldwide. The key is knowing that the Most High is going to restore us. All right, so Daniel 7. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream, and visions passed through his mind as he was lying in bed. He wrote down the substance of his dream. Daniel said, in my vision at night I looked, and there before me were the four winds of heaven, churning up the great sea. Four great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea. The first was like a lion, and it had the wing of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a human being, and the mind of a human was given to it. And there before me was a second beast, which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth. Between its teeth, it was told, get up and eat your fill of flesh. Verse 6, after that I looked, and behold, I don't know what I was to behold. After that I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard. And on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. All right, so I want y'all to pay close attention to what I'm about to read. After that, in my vision at night I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying, frightening, and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. Thank you for watching, waiting for the gift. So before we continue, family, I want you to take note of this different beast. It is a 4th beast, right? All right, and it has 10 horns. Thank you, Sister Sheila, for the gift. Verse 8, while I was thinking about the horns. Now, horns represent rulership, authority. While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one. which came up among them, and 3 of the first were uprooted before it. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being, and the mouth that spoke boastfully. As I looked, thrones were set in place. An Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated and the books were open. Now understand, this is the end time judgment scenario, right? At the end of times. At the time of the second resurrection, which is the resurrection of the damned, because those whose names are written in the book are already written. It didn't need to be open because they're in the Lamb's book of life. But I continue. Verse 11. Then I continued to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking. Many people say this is the Antichrist, and I agree. I kept looking until the beast was slain and his body destroyed into a blazing fire. Now we know in the book of Revelation that the Antichrist and the false prophet, thank you, warrior, yeah. We know in the book of Revelation that the Antichrist, the beast, right, and the false prophet are what? Cast into the lake of fire. So we know this beast is the Antichrist. We know this is the time frame where the beast or the Antichrist is cast into the lake of fire in the book of Revelation. Verse 12, the other beasts had been stripped of their authority, which is the other nations, right? They've been stripped of their authority, but were allowed to live for a period of time. We see that at the judgment of the goat nations, the sheep and the goat nations, all right? The goat nations are destroyed. The sheep nations are allowed to live for a period of time. 13, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man. That's Yeshua, coming with the clouds of heaven. How did Yeshua leave? On the clouds of heaven. How does Yeshua return? On the clouds of heaven. Who's the Son of Man? The Son of Man coming what? The Bible said the Son of Man came eating and drinking. And y'all say he a wine bibber. I'm just saying it all comes together, right? So he approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worship him. So y'all say Yeshua is not God, but the whole world is going to worship the Son of Man. The Son of Man came to the Ancient of Days and was given authority. Yeshua said, all authority is given to me in heaven and on earth. But anyway, I digress. So he was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshiped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. Verse 15, I, Daniel, was troubled in spirit, and the visions that passed through my mind disturbed me. I approached one of those standing there and asked him the meaning of this. So he told me, gave me interpretation of these things, the 4 great beasts or 4 kings or kingdoms that will rise from the earth. But the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom. That's you, Israel, because it was always promised to you and your descendants, right? Remember, they asked the Lord, Lord, will thou at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? He said, it's not for you to know, but for the Father. It didn't say the nation to the Gentiles. He said, are you going to restore it to Israel? So the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever. Thank you, Ms. Rose, for the gift. Then I wanted to know the meaning of the 4th beast. Okay, this is very important right here. Okay, so we saw the description earlier of the 4th beast, that terrible beast, right? Then I wanted to know the meaning of the 4th beast, which was different from all the others and most terrifying. Thank you for the gift, Brooke Queen. I wanted to know the meaning of the 4th beast, which was different from all the others and most terrifying with its iron teeth and bronze claws. The beast that crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. I also wanted to know about the 10 horns on his head and about the other horn that came up, before which 3 of them fell. Now understand some of this imagery here with the fall of, the 3 horns that are going to be plucked up by the roots and all that stuff. That is a future prophecy. And some of this is prophecy is current and some of it is future. All right. And I'm going to show you why. Okay. So before which 3 of them fell, The horn that looked more imposing than the others, and that had eyes in their mouth that spoke boastfully. As I watched, this horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them. So I was looking at this scripture, right, family? And I said, man, Israel not supposed to go into captivity again. I mean, what's up with this, with the Antichrist? Thank you for the gift, Angie Love. Yeah. I was like, what's with the Antichrist overcoming us again? You know, so as I watched, this horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them. So this is my understanding. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. All right. Remember, we teach that Israel will go back to the land, right? Israel is going to go back to the land, and they're going to be there for a while, a few hundred years, 4 to 800, we think, or 1,000. Don't know yet. But somewhere up in there, Israel going to be back in the land, and then they're going to, the Gog and Magog war is going to happen, and that's when I believe the Antichrist is going to exist, because there are many Antichrists, and I think it's a spirit being that possesses people. All right, so another Antichrist is going to arise, right, which is the spirit being that's going to possess someone who is Abaddon. And remember, in Ezekiel 38, they say, you know, they come to take a spoil. And they're going to take half of Jerusalem. I believe this is that part where half of Jerusalem is taken. Okay. And so, you know, Israel is going to be fighting. If you all saw other end time prophecy videos, you will know the timing that we see of all of this stuff happening. We believe the next thing is this war, and we believe that after that is the second Exodus, right? So what's happening today, if I'm correct, denotes how close we are to the second Exodus. So let's continue. So until the Ancient of Days came and pronounced judgment in favor of the holy people of the Most High, and the time came when they possessed the kingdom. And remember, Yeshua comes at the end of Armageddon. He destroys the Antichrist and throws the Antichrist into the abyss, right? So it all comes together, right? All right, so verse 23. He gave me this explanation, okay? Understand this. The fourth beast is a fourth kingdom that will appear on earth. Okay, let me rephrase this for you. He gave me this explanation. The fourth beast is the fourth kingdom that will appear on the earth. I didn't rephrase it, my bad. The fourth kingdom is the fourth beast is the fourth kingdom, which is called NATO, United States, the globalist system. All right. The globalist system is the fourth kingdom ruled by the whore, all right, which is the United States. So he gave me this explanation. The fourth beast is NATO, right? And the Western powers that will appear on the earth. And I'm going to prove this to you, okay? But I'm just helping you understand how I'm seeing things. So the fourth kingdom is NATO and the Western powers that appeared on the earth or will appear on the earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth and trample it down and crushing it. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. So the 10 horns come from this kingdom, right? Now we're going to look at something. I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you, it looks like it to me. That's why I'm like, everything seems to be here. Everything seems to be here. So just stay with me. You know me, it's going to be a little progression, right? So the 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. What kingdom? The NATO kingdom, the Western power structure that we're in right now. This is the fourth beast that is terrible, that crushes down everyone and conquers and kills everyone, right? They go to Iraq and destroy. They go to the Middle East and destroy. They go to other continents and destroy and crush underfoot the residue of their feet, right? This is NATO Western powers. I'm going to prove it to you, but you got to pay careful attention, right? So understand these 10 horns are 10 kings who will what? Come from this kingdom. It comes from the NATO kingdoms. The 10 horns, keep that in mind, family. Write it down because it's very important. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from the NATO Western Allied Kingdom, the fourth beast. This is the fourth beast, all right? We're living in the fourth beast. Thank you for the gift, Arlene. So after them, another king will arise. So after who? After the 10 kings, right? Or 10 kingdoms. After them, after these 10 kings will arise, different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings, right? So there's another king or kingdom that's going to arise from the 10, right? the Antichrist, and he will subdue 3 kings. All right, pay attention because this all comes together. I haven't seen anybody teach it this way, so you pay attention. So he will speak against the Most High and oppress the holy people, which is you all, the chosen, right? And try to change the set times and the laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a times and half a time, for 3.5 years. So I believe that timing that he is under control of the holy people is when they take half of Jerusalem. And there's that war in the Middle East after we have already returned back to the land. We won't be alive, right? Based upon my timing and my understanding of eschatology, you know, it's far in the future. All right. So let's continue. But the court will sit, and his power will be taken away and completely destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the holy people. That's you all and your descendants of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey him. This is the end of the matter. I, Daniel, was deeply troubled by my thoughts, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself. Now, understand this. According to my understanding in eschatology, Gentiles will live in the kingdom with us. Gentiles will be citizens of the kingdom. Okay, so for those who don't believe that, then, you know, that's your opinion, your business, right? But just as in the Old Testament, we had foreigners who lived amongst us and was allocated land and became part of the kingdom. They lived in it. They did not become Israel, okay, but they became citizens of the kingdom. Same thing I have. All right. So keep all of this down. I hope y'all were taking notes, right, about the 10 horns, about the 4th kingdom, and all of that, because it's very important. Because now we're going to go to the book of Revelation. Any comments before I continue, Minister Tate?
No, you can continue.
All right. So Revelation 17, verses 7 through 18. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman." Who's the woman? The woman is the United States of America. Go look at our video dealing with Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. I will explain to you the mystery of the woman, and I'm going to say United States of America, and the beast she rides. So the beast that America, the whore that she rides, is the NATO allied countries. It's the Western power structure. I'm going to prove it to you. Now, understand the Bible told us that the 4th beast was different from all of the others. Why? Because this is a conglomeration, right? That's what we see in the book of Revelation. We see the dragon heads, and we see the feet of the bear, and we see the lion's mouth, right? This is a conglomeration of nations and power structures, which is why it is different from the ones before. So why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast she rides, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay. 10 horns are synonymous with the 10 toes. It's synonymous with the 10 horns, which is synonymous with authority and power. Okay? They make decisions. Thank you, Kelly, for the gift. So I will show you or explain to you the mystery of the woman and the beast she rides, which has what? 7 heads and 10 horns. I'm going to tell you right now who the 7 heads are. The 7 heads are the G7 nations. I'm going to prove this to you. Eat the meat, spit out the bone. And I'm going to show you who the 10 horns are. All right. So right now, I gave you the answer for who the 7 heads are. The 7 heads are the G7 nations. And I'm going to show you in a bit who the 10 horns are. All right. So the beast which you saw once was not, let me start over. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come up out of the abyss and go to its destruction. Understand that thank you, Marielle, for the gift. Understand that the beast we're talking about here is Abaddon. Why? Because Abaddon ascends what? Out of the abyss. Okay, we talked about that in past shows as well. So Abaddon, which is the fallen angel, which many people consider to be Lucifer himself. I'm not sure if he is Lucifer or not. But he's Apollyon, or he's Abaddon. He's Apollo. Okay? So the beast which you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come out of the abyss and go to its destruction. That's why it's called the son of perdition, because he ascends out of the abyss. Who's in the abyss? It is Abaddon. Okay. So Abaddon is synonymous or tied to this great structure, this beast system, the fourth beast, the fourth kingdom. All right. So the inhabitants of the earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The seven heads, which is the G7 nations, are seven hills on which the woman sits. So hills and mountains in the Bible represents authority or kingdoms. Okay, so the G7 nations are seven kingdoms that the woman controls. We can read it that way. The G7 nations are seven kingdoms on which the woman controls, or she sits. America controls the G7 nations. All right, stick with me. I'm gonna prove it to you. You ain't gotta accept it. Eat the meat, spit out the bone. All right, so there are also seven kings. Five are fallen, one is, the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain only a little while. Understand that some of these nations are synonymous with their rulers and authority behind them, just as we saw with the beast kingdom is synonymous with Apollo and Apollyon. All right, so the beast who once was and now is not is an eighth king. Okay, so there's going to be an eighth king. He belongs to the seven and is going to his destruction. So remember, we have the son of perdition. That means he is going to destruction. That's what perdition means. Perdition means you're going to be destroyed. Apollyon is the angel of the abyss, right? Which is the angel of the which is the beast system, which is tied to the angel of the abyss. He comes out of the abyss. The fourth kingdom comes out of the abyss, is under the control of the angel of the abyss, which is Apollyon, which is Abaddon. All right. So just hold with me. So remember I told you write down Daniel chapter 7. Remember I told you write down about the 10 horns, right? Because what do we know in Daniel 7 about the 10 horns? What those 10 horns are going to rule with another kingdom, right? And so that's why we have the eighth kingdom, because Daniel 7 showed you that there's another king that's going to come and rule with the 10. So what's going to happen after this war with Russia, and Russia destroys Babylon, there's going to be a 10-toe kingdom. That 10-toe kingdom is going to rule for a while, and they will give their authority and power to this new kingdom, which is going to be ruled by the person we call the Antichrist. Now, I believe this is over hundreds of years, right? Probably at least 800 years from the fulfillment of all of this. So I think right now we're in the beginning stages of the creation of the 10-toe kingdom. Okay, so verse 12, the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. So understand that the 10 kingdoms are going to rule after this war. The 10 kingdoms are going to rule after this war. And that one of the kingdoms is going to be the kingdom that the Antichrist comes from. And later on in the future, they will give their power unto the Antichrist. We call him Antichrist. The Bible calls him a beast, the beast. So they have one purpose. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, just to be clear, that, look at the parallels. The woman who controls the beast, she sits on many waters, right? So she has her hands on many nations worldwide. She is everywhere, controlling everything. She's riding that beast. That beast is comprised of multiple nations, right? She's been controlling them. She has been in power over these beast nations. But at some point, right, she gets betrayed and gets overthrown by the beast. And then who takes over? The 10-horn kingdom, the 10-toe kingdom. right? So that's the kingdom that's going to rise next. But when she arises, the Most High will set up a nation as well that will last forever. Go ahead.
So remember also for Daniel 7, the 10 horns or 10 kings who will come from this kingdom, right, which is the fourth kingdom in Daniel 7. After them, another king will arise different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings. So that new king that will arise, that is the Antichrist that we see here, right? The beast. All right. So they have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. So when they come to power as a 10 horn or 10 nation collective, they're going to say, okay, now we're going to choose from among the 10 and give our power unto the beast. Okay, thank you, Sam, for the gift. Well, I'm sorry. They're going really, that new king becomes the 11th king, right? So there's a 10-toe kingdom, and they're going to give their authority to the beast because Daniel says that there's another one that arises, right? He says after them another king, right? So that makes it the 11th king, right? So there's going to be the 10-nation confederacy, and they're going to give their power to this new king that comes along. And he's the Antichrist, and he's going to rule the whole thing. So they will
He's
wage
the little
war.
horn too.
Yeah, the little horn.
Right.
He's the little horn as well. They will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them because he is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. And with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. So here it says they will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them. Okay. Remember, we saw in Daniel 7 that he speaks words against the Most High and the holy people, right? And he's going to persecute them, but only until the Ancient of Days come, right? See, I keep telling y'all, Yeshua is the Father as well. I know y'all don't, some of y'all don't get it, but Yeshua is the Father. That's why he said, I and the Father are one. But anyway, let me continue. I digress. All right. So, verse 15. Then the angel said unto me, the waters you saw where the prostitute sits, that is the prostitute, which is the whore, which is the United States of America, which controls the Western NATO alliance. Now, they got a different name for this alliance and a more detailed name, which I'll explain to you later, right? But for all purposes, it's the Western NATO alliances. All right. So the waters you saw where the prostitute, which is the U.S., sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. The beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. So the beast, which is one of these, another nation that's going to join the 10. So the beast and the 10 horns. So that's 11, right? So there's going to be a 10-toe kingdom. They're going to get power first. They're going to give their power to the beast some point in the future. So the beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the United States. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to hand over to the beast their royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. So understand, we talked about this, and you know, if you don't agree that the whore is America, is the United States of America, then that's your business. But understand, you would have to go back and look at why we believe that the United States is Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. But all of this starts to make sense. Now, understand this. There's a system, a kingdom that exists. We don't call it that. We just call it, you know, alliances and things like that, right? That's how we refer to stuff today. But there's a beast system that has 7 heads, which is the G7, right? 7 heads, and on those heads have 10 horns. And there's a woman that controls the system, the kingdom that is different from the ones that came before. It is different from the Babylonian kingdom. It is different from the Medes and the Persians. It is different from the Roman Empire, even though it is a continuation of the Roman Empire. This is a continuation of the Roman Empire, but it is a hybrid beast, It is a hybrid kingdom, animal kingdom, which is a chimera, which is a dragon.
So
All right. So
she's the 8 and even is of the 7. And the 7th was wrong.
well, I don't agree with that, but
Okay. Well, I'm just saying,
so
if we look at the breakdown, Rome being the final empire, and it says
well,
even yeah.
I think you partially right, but when it comes to the G7 nations, they are the Roman Empire, right? They are the continuation of the Roman Empire,
Well, that's
but they're
what I
not the
just said.
7. Huh?
I'm saying, the passage that says even she's the 8, but she is of the 7. I have to find that verse, but it's
So
saying that.
I'm gonna show you why I believe that's the current system. So
Okay. Well,
here's
let me
what
not interrupt you.
okay. So I believe that this is the current world order right here. Okay. This woman you see in symbology is the current world order, where this woman that you see riding the beast is the United States of America. Thank you, DQ, for the gift. And the 7 heads are the G7 nations. Okay. And it's all part of this colonial mindset, this colonial system, which what did the colonizers do? Let me ask you a question, Minister Teo. Did not the colonizers who are a part of this beast system go for conquering and to conquer? They went to Africa, they conquered all those nations. They went to India, conquered India. They went into China, conquered China. They came over here to the Americas, conquered America. They did not go through and stamp the residue with defeat.
Yes, they went from nation to nation and conquered literally every nation.
Okay.
And then stood up puppet regimes in its place.
Exactly. So I'm going to show you. So I showed you, I believe that the heads are the G7 nations, right? This new kingdom, this fourth kingdom, which was different from the other kingdoms, that this new kingdom is what we see today. We're in this beast system, this kingdom right now. America is the whore who controls it. And go watch our video if you don't understand why we believe it's America. So now that we know the G7 nations are these heads, right? Let's look at who I believe the 10 horns are, or the 10 toes are. You ready, minutes to tell you? I didn't tell you about this one. You probably know a little bit about it already, though. All right. So let's look at it. So here's who I believe the 10 horns are. Can I get a drum roll, please? All right. Here's who I believe the 10 horns are, and it fits the symbology. It is the D10 democracies. The D10 Strategy Forum brings together top policy planning officials and strategy experts from 10 leading democracies to foster cooperation on global challenges. I believe this is the 10 toes of the beast. Now, remember, the scripture says in Daniel 7 that the 10 come from the 7, right? You remember that, Mr. Tayu? The 10 come from the 7.
Right. The 10 sit on the 7 heads.
Yeah, the 10, and they come from out of the 7. So they sit on the 7 heads, but they come from out of them. That's what Daniel said. So about the forum, initiated in 2014, the Atlantic Council, we're going to talk about them. D10 Strategy Forum brings together 10 policy planning officials and strategy experts from 10 leading democracies at the forefront of building and maintaining the rules-based democratic order. All right. So these 10 are the influencers for this new system, this new order, the democratic order. These are the 10 horns, in my opinion. Participants in this democracies 10: Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, South Korea, and UK, and the United States, plus the European Union, have demonstrated a commitment to shared values and interests and possesses the requisite diplomatic, economic, and military resources to act on a global scale. Other democracies, including India, Indonesia, Poland, and Spain, have participated as observers. So you see, this is a new power structure. Remember, I told you that horns represents authority. All right. So D10 meeting strategy forum meetings are hosted by the foreign ministers of participating D10 states. All right. So let me scroll down here. Origins of D10. The D10 construct has its origins in a State Department policy planning staff initiative launched in 2008, which convened policy planning directors from U.S. allies across the Atlantic and Pacific for a strategic dialogue on global challenges. Subsequently, the Atlantic Council Senior Fellow Ash Jane and former State Department Policy Planning Director David Gordon suggested that the D10 could serve as a standing platform for strategic collaboration that would allow the U.S. and its like-minded allies to advance common interests and shared values. Now, understand this structure is going to change because we know that the whore that rides the beast is America, and America is going to be destroyed, and therefore her position is going to change. All right. Now, remember, the Bible says that that Babylon's mother is going to be confounded when she's destroyed. All right. So the first D10 strategy forum meeting was held in Ottawa in 2014. More recently, Mr. Jane and Matthew Kronig, Deputy Director of the Atlantic Council's Scowcroft Center for Strategy and Security, proposed that the G7 should be expanded to include Australia, South Korea, and possibly India, serving as D10 steering committee of democracies to advance the rules-based order. All right, so this is the 10 horns or the 10 toes. Now, I'm gonna read another article for you so you could get a more in-depth view of the power and influence of the D10. All right, forget the G7, build the D10. The moment is right for a summit of democracy. So forget the 7 heads, turn to the 10 horns. What? Forget the 7 heads and turn to the 10 horns. See, it all sort of fits together, right? All right, so let's continue because we got this new beast system that we're talking about. Okay. So the canceled G7 summit this week, unfortunately, is no great misfortune, though it's a shame that the group of 7 major industrialized nations leaders were not able to gather amid the raging global pandemic. And perhaps even more likely due to mounting tensions between the United States and its allies, the grouping was always unlikely to achieve much with U.S. President Donald Trump at the helm. That's why it's proved so easy for world leaders to miss. Trump seemed to recognize this dated 1970s format as insufficient when he proposed inviting India, South Korea, Australia, and Russia to join a rescheduled summit in September. However, including a hostile actor like Vladimir Putin's Russia in this group of leading democracies was obviously a non-starter, especially since the G20 already exists as a separate, broader grouping that includes both Russia and China. But creative thinking across the Atlantic at number 10 Downing Street is heading in the right direction. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been actively considering the right idea, consolidating a new D10 group of 10 leading democracies. What? A new D10 group of 10 leading democracies, the current G7 members, for addressing both 5G, mobile communications, and vulnerable supply chains, while the idea behind G10 is not a novel one. A group organized by the Atlantic Council think tank in Washington has been promoting it for years with regular working level meetings between officials. It has a new impetus amid the coronavirus pandemic. So the new D10 group of leading democracies and the current G7 members. All right. So understand that the G7, the G10, some of the D10 are members of G7. And some of these new ones that they want to add are members of G7. So as Beijing attempts to deflect away from its own mishandling of the virus initiative outbreak in Wuhan and its lack of transparency, it is also engaging in wolf warrior diplomacy, propaganda, and online disinformation campaigns against the United States and its allies and partners. Stories of faulty Chinese-made masks and other vital medical equipment have also circulated widely around the world. That has drawn new attention to the risk associated with relying on Chinese-made 5G infrastructure and critical chains. Now, understand this. I believe that, remember I said there's going to be 10 horns. And remember, there's another little horn that comes up, or another king, right? So you got the 10 horns and you got that king that comes. I believe that new king or that new kingdom is going to be China. I think that's who they're going to give the power to. Understand that if you have, according to the scriptures, a group of 10 nations that come to power after this war, after Mystery Babylon is destroyed, the strongest nation, assuming she maintains her power and abilities and finances after this thing, the new power structure will be China. It's just my opinion. I believe that new kingdom will be China that's going to rule. So countries from Canada to Britain to Germany are already rethinking whether to allow Huawei to build out their next generation 5G networks. Meanwhile, the United States, the European Union, and Japan are all currently considering options for reducing dependence on China for the supply of pharmaceuticals and medical equipment and possibly other critical sectors as well. All right. So the UK's, what happened here? Hold on, fam. They blocked me out. All right. The United Kingdom's D10 is the right size and shape, neither too big, which reduces coherence, nor too small, covering only the Cold War West. The D10 is not an anti-China alliance. Instead, by narrowly focusing on the two defensive issues all democratic powers probably agree they have a problem and cannot solve on their own: 5G and critical supply chains. It is a platform that could relatively quickly get off the ground. Moreover, the D10 is attractive to both foreign policy restrainers as well as competitors alike, as actively reducing these two strategic vulnerabilities and heated public concerns can work to lessen future tensions with Beijing. All right, so understand that this D10 is a powerful new organization. D10 is a golden opportunity for London to put some meat on the bones on the still unproven global Britain concept pitched by Johnson and others in the wake of Brexit. To further advance the D10, the UK should seek to convene its first summit in London by early next year. All right, so understand, they're trying to make this the new power structure. Okay, so London should reach out to Paris and Berlin to explore if there is interest in jointly proposing the D10, with the EU and other European powers attending, including Italy, which is also a G7 member. So they're talking about including Italy as part of the 10, right? Which is already a G7 member. So this is why you have 7 heads with 10 horns, and the 10 come out of the 7, right? But also Spain and Netherlands, Sweden and Poland as occasional participants, depending on the topic at hand. This would be in the long-standing format of the G7 summits. See, this is going to be the new power structure. G7 is going to the wayside, even though they're the heads right now. Okay, and we see in the scriptures that the 10 will become the leaders of the new system. And the Bible says in the day that, well, we'll get there. So the leaders of the 9 non-member states, including India and Australia, attended the 2019 summit in Biarritz, France. So understand that this new governmental system, this D10, in my opinion, is the 10 horns, because it is a authoritative new structure that exists on top of the G7 or the 7 heads. That's why you have 10 horns on the 7 heads, right? The G7 are the heads that has 10 horns on them. The D10 comes what? Out of the G7. The D10 comes out of the G7. The horns comes out of the head. Okay, so we have this current beast system that's in place, and now there's a new D10 ready for the last days. Any comment before I continue, Mr. Tate?
No, keep on.
All right, so we'll be winding up in a bit. All right, so this is Revelation 12:3. It says, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and crowns upon his heads." So we have the G7 nations, right? With the 10 horns that come out of the head, which is the D10, right? Which is the new democratic order, which is the new 10 leaders, as they mentioned, right? And 7 crowns upon his head. That means they're going to rule. We see that in scripture, that the new system of government is going to be the D10, or the 10 toes, or the 10 horns. Okay? And we see the dragon. What is the dragon? The dragon is the system we've been living in, this colonizer, Eurocentric, God-hating, Israelite-hating system called NATO. All right. Oh, there's one other thing I forgot to show you all, fam. My bad. Hold on one sec before I go too far. All right, so all right, yeah. So this was very important, which I knew I was missing something. I thought I had it there. All right, so from G7 to a D10, strengthening democratic cooperation for today's challenges. So we're going from a G7 to a D10, 7 heads with the 10 horns. The 10 horns are going to become the new authority, the new leadership. That's why the horns are on the head of the G7. So as the world emerges from a devastating pandemic, the United States and its democratic allies and partners face a daunting array of global threats and challenges. Authoritarianism is rising. Iran and North Korea continue to advance their nuclear programs, and the race for advanced technology is heating up. Climate change is irreversibly altering the planet, while wage stagnation and unemployment threaten to derail the makings of global economic recovery. All right. The D10 can serve to drive a common approach to counter the wide range of autocratic threats posed by Russia and China. It can forge a technology initiative to develop common norms and standards for advanced technologies and more resilient supply chains. It can provide a channel for rebuilding commitments to free and fair trade and new climate initiative to collectively advance green technologies. So this not the one I wanted, but this also makes the 10 of its connection with the existing power structure. Okay, this is what I wanted. But this not the page I wanted. Hold on, fam. All right. So the Atlantic Council, I wanted to go to their page. All right. Well, the Atlantic Council is an American think tank in the field of international affairs, favoring Atlanticism. Founded in 1961, it manages 10 regional centers and functional programs related to international security and global economic prosperity. So the Atlantic Council is the umbrella organization of the D10. Okay. It is headquartered in Washington, D.C. It is a member of the Atlantic Treaty Association. The Atlantic Council was founded with the stated mission to encourage the continuation of cooperation between North America and Europe that began after World War II. In its early years, its work consisted largely of publishing policy papers and polling Europeans and Americans about their attitude toward transatlantic and international cooperation. So this is the umbrella organization or the controlling group of the D10 nations. Okay, so also it is a member of the Atlantic Treaty Council. So this is really the beast, right? I call it the Western Alliance, the Western NATO Alliance, but it really is the Atlantic Council or the Atlantic Treaty Association. This is the beast system here, right? Which includes the United States, which includes NATO, which includes the EU, which includes the current global system. This is the beast system of Revelation. This is the fourth beast of Daniel chapter 7. The Atlantic Treaty Association is an umbrella organization which draws together political leaders, academics, military officials, and diplomats to support the NATO, ATA, to support NATO. ATA is an independent organization that is separate from NATO. Okay. ATA was created on June 18, 1954. Since the end of the Cold War and the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact, the role of the Atlantic Treaty Association was changed considerably. In 1992, the ATA Constitution was amended to accommodate associate members and observers from non-NATO countries. All right, so this is the organization. This is really the beast system because it incorporates everyone, right? All right, so we saw in Revelation 12 that there's a beast, there's a dragon, right? That beast we see in Revelation with 7 heads and 10 horns, right? Got the mouth of a lion. That is the dragon. That is the red dragon. And that a dragon is associated with the beast that's in the abyss as well. All right. So finally, we're going to talk about part of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Hold on one sec. All right. And this will be it, fam. All right. So you all know about the dream, you know, with the statues and the head of gold and all that stuff, right? So this verse 40. All right. So this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 40 through 45. All right. So finally, there will be a fourth kingdom. That's the kingdom we're in now, which is the kingdom that the United States controls right now that sits on this new system, this beast system. So finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes, that's the 10 toes, were partly, which is also synonymous with the 10 horns. Just as you saw that the feet and the 10 toes were partly baked clay, partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. So the new coming 10-toe kingdoms will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, so it's going to be strong like the previous kingdom, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. So the toes were partly iron and partly clay. So this kingdom, what kingdom? The 10-toe kingdom, will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay or miry clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. So this new 10-toe kingdom is going to be like the United States, mixed with many cultures and religions and belief systems and all that stuff, right? And they're going to worship many gods. We know that, right? This kingdom is going to be diverse, but they're going to be partly strong and partly weak. So they want this total totalitarian Luciferic system under the control of AI and artificial intelligence and virtual reality, but it's not going to be that way. All right. So in the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom. In the time of what kings? In the time of these 10-toe kingdoms, in the time of the D10, in the time of this G7 D10 kingdom, in the time of those kings, the 10 toes, in the time of the 10 toes, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all the kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of the mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, the gold, the pieces. So we know that Yeshua comes, he destroys all these kingdoms, right? We know there's going to be in the end time, there's going to be sheep and goat kingdom. The goat kingdoms won't survive. The sheep kingdoms are going to last a little longer, and the Most High is going to destroy them all. Okay, but take note that when you see the 10-toe kingdoms, when the D10 nations come to power, God's kingdom comes into existence. In the days of these 10, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. What is that kingdom? That kingdom is the Israelites who have awakened. That kingdom is the hidden ones who are being restored. That kingdom is the ones that we see in Isaiah chapter 60, who goes back to the land with gold and silver and goods. And all of that is going to go on out through time until we go back into the land. And then there's that Ezekiel 38 war, right? And then the Antichrist is going to fight us, those who are alive. It ain't going to be us if my timing is correct, right? The Antichrist is going to come to make war against the saints. That whole Gog and Magog situation. So if you haven't seen our other videos about end time prophecy, we talk about that battle of Armageddon, and we talk about Minister, tell you what's the document? What it we talked about the war scrolls. That's it.
With the war scrolls?
The war scrolls, yeah. We talk about that war that's going to happen when they come to try to take Africa, right? They're going to come and try to take Africa. I believe Africa, the Holy Land, which is the land of Israel. And you already know where I believe Jerusalem is. Any final comments?
Well, let me say this while you, yeah. Well, now that you mention Africa, you know, let's put things in perspective. Even today, the most fought for land on the planet is the continent of Africa, right? The most desired piece of property on the whole planet is the continent of Africa, and the inhabitants aren't allowed to rule over themselves, right? So when you look at it that way and you look at those prophecies about they parted my land, what fits the prophecies? They parted Africa, right? They divided it up, right? What is it? The Berlin Conference, right? They each European nation took a piece for themselves, except Russia. And the only reason Russia couldn't do it was because they were so far away. It wasn't affordable for them to do that and travel all the way around to get to Africa. But either way, they were the only nation that did not get a piece of Africa, right? So even in the last days, these nations will try to take it back from us, right? When the Most High sends us home, we're going to be there 800 to 1,000 years, according to what we see in Scripture. But at the end, these nations are going to be starving for those resources on the continent. And that's when Ezekiel 38 kicks in. That's when you see the day of the Lord kicks in. That's when the Most High brings them into the valley of Jehoshaphat and say, let's rumble. All right, that's how things are going to play out. And so what we feel like is happening now is everything's leading up to the second Exodus. So let me leave you with Ezekiel 39, 25 to 28. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, now I will restore the fortunes of Jacob and have mercy on the whole house of Israel, and I will be jealous for my holy name. They shall forget their shame and all the treachery they have practiced against me, when they dwell securely in their land, with none to make them afraid, when I have brought them back from the peoples and gathered them from their enemies' lands, and through them have vindicated my holiness in the sight of many nations. See, we are the ones that's going to let the rest of the world know who the one true God is. And that's how the Most High is going to get his glory and fame. Then they shall know that I am the Lord their God, because I sent them into exile among the nations and then assembled them into their own land. I will leave none of them remaining among the nations anymore. So that's our hope right there. As far as the nation of Israel, we won't be ruled by our oppressors anymore. We'll rule ourselves with the leading of the Most High. Minister Jacob.
So, fam, this is how I see things. everything seems to be there. Remember, I told you how, we put the pieces together, or we trying to bake a cake or whatever. I talked about this years ago, how we try to bake a cake and all the ingredients got to be there for the cake to be considered a cake, right? I'm seeing everything here. I'm seeing the awakening of Israel. I'm seeing the fourth kingdom, the fourth beast. I'm seeing the 10 horns. I'm seeing the northern kingdom that's ready to attack Babylon. Everything, at least as I see it, is here. Does that mean we're about to leave tomorrow? I don't know. Will we leave this year? I don't know. Will we leave 10 years from now? I don't know. I'm just telling you what I see, right? So eat the meat, spit out the bones. If you haven't followed our end times teachings, I suggest you go do it, because some of this stuff you're not going to understand until you see why we say things like, America's Mystery Babylon. So thanks, family, for listening. I want to thank all of the super chat givers. If I didn't see you and click on your chat, thank you for supporting the ministry. I want to thank the super chat givers. I want to thank the Cash App givers and the Patreon supporters. And also, family, please support our Dry Bones project. Thanks, Minister Tayu, for coming on. Any final comment? All right.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Just thank you for the teaching, Minister Yacoba. It was well done. Family, be blessed this Sabbath. Peace.
Peace out, fam.